Greetings and salutations, guys. I'm here with my thoughts on Universal Epic Universe. This is, of course, the brand new theme park at Universal Orlando Resort, which is a big deal because it's the first full-scale new theme park we're getting in the U.S. from what I'd say are the big two, Universal or Disney, in 24 years since California Adventure opened. So I'm going to share my first impressions and my reactions to the park and to the lands and to the attractions inside those lands, and what stood out to me the most and what could maybe use some tweaks along the way. I should note that I saw Epic Universe during a 2-day media event that was hosted by Universal, so they were the ones fitting the bill for me to be there, and we had access to the park when very few others were present. And while on the first few days of the park's official opening, we have seen them keep the crowds pretty small. That is clearly going to change over time. It's going to be a different experience for people as they go into the park. I will set the stage, though, by saying I was really impressed by Epic Universe. The size and scale of it, and when you walk into the various lands, sort of getting to really take in everything that you see. I know immersion is a very overused word in theme parks these days, but the immersion is very good here, and how they want to really make you feel like you are stepping inside these stories from these big movies or video games in some cases. And it's very effective. And there's a lot of great rides there. I really enjoyed and was very happy to get to go on, and a couple times because I thought that they offered some really, really fun, interesting experiences along the way. I have some quibbles. When will there not be quibbles with anything like this, that they are releasing all at once so much? But I think that this is very, very cool what they've created here. And I think most people, especially if you're fans of any of the things that are part of this park, it's hard not to be pretty damn happy seeing it all come to life. But we've got 5 themed areas to talk about here, 4 of which are based on pre-existing IP. So let's jump in and discuss them. Let's kick things off, though, with How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. This was the first land we fully got to explore, and it was a great first land to explore because you walk in and are instantly pretty wowed by what you're seeing, and just taking it all in, seeing this animated world brought to life. And it really does feel like, oh yeah, this is Berk, as I remember it from the films. And also, there's just a lot in this land. There are 3 separate rides in this land, but there are additional attractions on top of that. There is a stage show, there is a kids area, there's a lot of different eateries. It just seems like there's a lot of elements to it. And also, there are a lot of dragons. I am very happy that they delivered on the title characters. So as you're walking around this land, you see dragons in so many different forms. I'm going to put a pin in that and get back to that shortly. On the ride front, it also has what I think is one of the best coasters in this new park, which is Hiccup's Wing Gliders. I expected this to be a family coaster, and technically it is, but I feel like it's a pretty intense family coaster. I didn't feel like this was a kiddie coaster in any way. It has figures and animatronics involved too. You get to see Hiccup, you get to see Toothless. There are some other dragons that pop up along the way. It really does sort of propel you. I think it's pretty thrilling. I think if you are a kid going on this will be a really great experience because it'll feel a little more adult maybe than some of the coasters you've gone on. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. The other rides include Dragon Racers Rally, which is a Skyfly ride. I think of these rides as basically being, what if you designed the Dumbo ride at Disneyland today? So it's a spinning ride, but it's, the fact that you can really feel like the angle you're at and feel like you're controlling the up and down a little bit more with the wings. This is a very effective, fun version of this. And then Fire Drill, I'm glad that there is a water-based ride. I do wish this was a little more of an actual sort of up and down ride. I like log jammer type rides quite a bit, and I was hoping that's what this is. This is not. You're basically going in a circle. It's really about the sort of interactive nature of it as you are shooting the water at these static characters and different targets along the way, except that they shoot back at you. Here's the thing, it's Orlando. It's so freaking hot all the time. So any ride where you can get wet is actually very desirable, and it was effective on that level for sure. Even though this would probably be my least necessary of the 3 main rides within this land. And then there is the Untrainable Dragon, which is the stage show. I have no video of this, but I'll show images. We weren't supposed to film inside. I decided to be good and stick to those rules. I had to work to see this one, though. It was down for technical reasons many times. Look, this is a new park, and you might have seen some of the reports about things are down a lot right now, which is one reason you might want to wait a little while to go. And so in Trainable Dragon, I had to go over and over again. Several times I tried to go. It was down for technical reasons. Then one time I went, and it had just closed the doors, and they wouldn't let me in. But I was determined. And so at the actual grand opening party, I went, and thank God it was open. And I'm so glad it was, because I think this is a fantastic show. The dragons that they have on stage, they look so great. Toothless and Hiccup fly above you. It is hard not to, just have a big grin on your face seeing that occurring. And just getting into this show. And, it's got a pretty basic, simple story, but that's okay. It is really, when you think about sort of theme park shows of this type, which sometimes get kind of pushed to the side these days, and sometimes we see cuts in that arena, I'm just really glad it exists at all. And now that I've seen it, I understand why technically it can get shut down, because even just seeing this huge dragon on stage, the wingspan of that sucker, that must be a lot of work to do that. I really was happy about this show, and not just because it's a wonderfully air-conditioned large place in Orlando. This is a must, I'd say, if you're in Isle of Berk, and knock on wood, it is not down when you go. I also did the Meet Toothless experience, which is right outside that, which is a lot of fun. It's really cute how you can talk to him, pet him, interact with him, and they have the free roaming characters around, like Astrid here.
I know Stormfly and I struggled in the beginning, but now we are as strong as ever, and we'll win every dragon race.
You can beat Hiccup and Toothless, right?
That's why they never show up to the race.
And yes, I did make sure to tell Toothless that Astrid was claiming that Stormfly and her could beat Toothless and Hiccup. He had his own thoughts on that.
Don't roll your eyes. You're red. Wow, I'm going to tell Stormfly you rolled your eyes at her. I will.
On top of all of that, there is the Viking training camp sort of kids area that wasn't running while we were there, and we probably wouldn't have taken the time to do it if it was, since time was of the essence. Even at the media preview, we were on a clock, but it was cool to see they had this kid area there too, just again adding to sort of the fully formed nature of this entire land. And then lots of great food options. The huge mead hall, the main dining area, is really impressive. Again, the scale of that, looking all around that place, and the art they have up, and just looking up to the ceilings, it's great in there. And then who would resist a absolutely massive bread cone filled with mac and cheese that you can get at a couple of different snack carts around the area. Quite enjoyed that as well. I will mention the heat a couple times, I think, here, because it was a very, very hot week in Orlando. When is it not? But this actually felt like, amongst all the times I've gone to Orlando, one of the hotter ones. And I will say the queue for Hiccup's wing gliders did stand out as a place where I wish it was all covered. They did pretty well in this arena throughout this new park, it being Orlando and all, but only the last portion of Hiccup's wing gliders is covered, and I could definitely see that being a problem if this line gets really long. It's like when Toy Story Land opened and you were thinking, come on guys, you gotta give us some more cover here. Think about where you are. And then a little bit more about all those dragons I mentioned that you encounter all around the land, and how you see them in so many different ways, and sometimes they are literally walk around characters, which are really impressive. Like Toothless, you go to see him, but then there's these other characters that are Toothless's kids that they bring out. I watched one of them be extremely adorable. Then there's the permanent figures, but a lot of them do little actions, or in some cases big actions. It's just really great how they're integrated throughout the land. And I actually asked Katie Pachetti from Universal about the inclusion of so many dragons.
We had a giant plan of the world with pictures of all the different types of dragons, because you wanted to make sure that you were giving everybody you didn't want like a cluster here and then bold spots, right? So we absolutely did. And it was, our market research people said, if you're going to build a land around dragons, you better have dragons. So it was really important that we delivered on that. And as you pointed out, everywhere you go, you're going to see a dragon. It could be static, like we have a static Grunklehead behind me, or it could be something amazing like the snow wraith who breathes cold ice on everybody.
Right.
So you just sort of have these different levels so that not everything is one note.
Next up is Super Nintendo World. Now this one stands out because we have a version of it here at Universal Studios Hollywood, my local park that I've seen many times. But I knew that this version was going to have a lot more than ours did. And I will have to admit that when you walk in instantly, visually, you are struck by how much bigger theirs is and how it just sort of looks like they took the Hollywood version and really sort of stretched it out and, just added a lot to it. And that's even before getting to the Donkey Kong Country section, which I will discuss. But yeah, it's got a lot of the same things when you first walk in, as far as the Toadstool Cafe and Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. But one thing that we don't have is the Yoshi's Adventure Kid Ride, which is in the Japan park, but not in Universal Studios Hollywood. So I was glad to finally get to check that out. This was nothing special. Well, I should mention, it would be fine if it weren't in Orlando. Again, there's that heat factor.
It's really, really hot. It's very hot right now. Oh, there it is. There's the sun breaking through more. You know what that means? It's even hotter.
Because so much of it is outdoors. And this is a very slow-moving, kid-oriented attraction that I think would be completely enjoyable as far as what you're seeing, the visuals, the characters moving around, the animatronics, if it were indoors. It's one thing to have outdoor coasters in that weather because you're moving quickly. It doesn't really matter how hot it is. But when you're sitting and you're moving very slowly through that heat, not the greatest experience. Anytime we went indoors, which does happen a little bit, I was very, very happy. Liked seeing those figures and the characters. But yeah, this is probably a one and done for me on Yoshi's Adventure. But I am not a small child, nor am I accompanied by a small child at the park since I don't have kids. And of course, that can make a big difference here. I won't go too into the Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge ride, only because it is at Universal Hollywood. Though for those who haven't experienced it, I'll say it's a fun ride. I just always have this weird thing about the fact that they really make you have to make a decision between paying attention to the sort of AR video game elements of actually looking through this screen that they've given you and the goggles you have on, or do you want to look at the really cool dark ride that you're going through but you're kind of missing if you're playing the game. I always kind of have to make that decision. Sometimes I won't put on the goggles and I'll just look at what they built because I think it's really impressive and I wish more people could get to appreciate that if they're not playing the game. But the big highlight here for me was getting to see the whole Donkey Kong Country section, which is basically attached to the back of the Mario section. We don't have that here in Hollywood. We have it in Japan, but I've never been to the Japan version of Super Nintendo World. And this was really fun. It just visually, it looks great. I have a lot of affection for Donkey Kong as a franchise. I have a lot of affection for Donkey Kong Country, the game from the 90s. So this was great to see come to life. Good to see all the little details they've put throughout, all the theming. I'm not going to go into too many details on merchandise throughout the park, but of course there's plenty in every area. The Nintendo stuff has a lot of great color pop to it. The way it's presented is really cool. And I will say on the food side, there was quite a long line in that blazing heat for the Bubbly Barrel, which is the food kiosk where you can get the DK Crush Float. Basically kind of their take on a Dole Whip. It actually literally has Dole Whip, so it is their Dole Whip with banana cream served over pineapple Fanta soda. It's really tasty. I quite liked it, but another big selling point is that it comes in these sort of DK barrel mugs. It's $18.99, so that ain't cheap, but the fact that it gives you this goofy collectible that is very eye-catching, and if you're a fan of Donkey Kong, it's kind of hard to resist that. So it was funny that was one of the longer waits I had at the media event, was to get that freaking banana Dole Whip. But hey, it looked good. We wanted those cups. What can I say? And then the big new ride, new to America because it opened in Japan a few months ago, but Minecart Madness, which is the sort of coaster at the back of Donkey Kong Country. I really enjoyed this one. And I knew that kind of the gimmick was the fact that it looks like you're jumping the track, like the track is broken, and that it's called a boom coaster where there's this big arm on the side that can actually, the thing that's actually moving you along. It's not actually the tracks below you, and that's how you leap. It's a very effective little gimmick, and it's actually all through the ride. I thought it was only going to happen once or twice, but it happens many, many times, and it works each time. When you are, the sort of tricking your mind of it all, of seeing that you're going to go off the track, but instead jumping it. I thought that was really fun. My only complaint about this ride is it bangs your knees around a lot. So be aware of that. I don't think knee pads are probably something you're going to be bringing to Universal Orlando Resort. But I rode that ride twice, and both times I thought, ooh, yeah, my knees are kind of sore when I'm done with that attraction. But I still quite enjoyed it. Next, there is the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic, which is arriving at a weird-ass time, both for Harry Potter as a franchise and for the theming of this land. Where do I start? So J.K. Rowling has turned out to be, a transphobic monster person, and that has obviously caused huge divisions in the fan base and understandable hesitation for people to engage in a lot of Potter stuff. And then there's the fact that they based most of this land on the Fantastic Beasts films, which were not well received, so much so that they ended up only making 3 instead of the 5 announced. And then the main ride is not based on Fantastic Beasts and doesn't even seem to fit timeline-wise with what most of the land is. It's all very weird. It's also a very visually impressive land. It's mostly based on Paris in the 1920s. Again, that's from the second Fantastic Beasts movie. The one I'd say is the weakest of the 3 and the worst received. I know that the third one made the least money, but I think that's because the second one was so poorly received. So it's so strange to kind of have this be what it's all based around. And also, it's interesting because when you walk in, it's not like it's screaming Harry Potter in any way. It is an absolutely amazing recreation of Paris. It is kind of overwhelming to look at, to see what they've built here and how big it is and how there are these sort of multiple streets and how beautiful it is. And the shops, there's a wand shop and a candy shop and things you might expect in a Wizarding World Potterverse thing, but they all look really beautiful, lovely, detailed. The restaurants are the same. They wanted to have this really beautiful European feel to it, and they capture that. I am curious what kids will think of this, because again, when you walk in, it's not like the other 2 Wizarding Worlds where it's like, it's a world of magic, it's Harry Potter. It screams Harry Potter because it's Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley, places that we think of with Harry Potter. Paris, maybe you saw that second Fantastic Beasts movie, maybe you didn't. Harry Potter certainly wasn't in that movie, so it's a lot flimsier as far as a connection, and it might not be as amazing to kids. I will say, if you divorced anything Potter from it, just to walk in there, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And that's saying something, because there is also obviously the France area at Epcot, which I love Epcot, but what they have done here is so much bigger and huge as far as this Paris recreation. So it was hard not to be pretty, I was going to say taken aback in a good way, I guess. Just say, okay, this is what they've done here. So then you have the main attraction, Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry, which you travel inside the Ministry of Magic to see, which is, again, a very strange situation because it's the Ministry of Magic. And why is it suddenly that you're transported through time? The ride itself does enter sort of time turners into the equation, but it's very tenuous. But when you walk into the queue, when you see the recreation of the Ministry, if you have ever been a fan of these movies, and a lot of people have seen these movies, it's pretty spectacular. Just looking around, seeing what they've built, seeing those statues from the film, seeing the detail on the offices. I really love that. The fact that they made a bunch of windows into offices, and they put details in there. They put things in there that to look like people are actually working in those offices. That's all spectacular. And the rest of the queue is pretty cool as far as the details throughout, and seeing all the things they've created, that some of which you saw in the movies, but a lot you didn't. This has been the ride that has been notorious already, though, for how long the wait has been and how much it breaks down. And I think on the official opening day, it was like people waited 5 hours, and then we're told that you're never getting in. Like they were waiting 5 hours because it was down, and then eventually they were told that, yeah, we're sorry, it's not happening today. Is it worth it? I think it's a good ride. At first, I was like, oh no, it's a screen-based ride. I'm kind of not over them because there's some I really enjoy, but I don't know if I need new ones. But it's an impressive screen-based ride. Again, it is very big in scale. The screens are huge, and there's a lot of animatronics mixed in. I think they've learned their lesson that people don't want just screens. So they mix in some Death Eaters, and Umbridge herself has animatronics. I don't think I mentioned that the plot is that it's about Umbridge's trial and her trying to escape. But yeah, so it's a good ride. I wasn't blown away by it, and I think that they have a pretty high bar for the Potter rides because I think Forbidden Journey is great and the Hagrid ride is spectacular. This is probably the third best. It's better than the Gringotts ride, but I don't think it is one of the very best of them. So with those long waits, I don't know. I think you should definitely go inside the Ministry of Magic, but I think you can just exit right away too. They have kind of the doors in and out. You exit through the Ministry when you're done with the ride too. So I'd almost just advise people for sure to check out the Ministry. I understand that you're going to also want to do the ride, but if it looks like it's a 3-hour wait, I don't know if I would do that when there is a lot of other fun stuff in that park. But right now, this is the one that's gathering all the crowds. But I do think the queue is so cool. So I understand. It's a sort of they do draw you in with that queue, and it is very hard to resist that. And you should at least see that main entrance area to the Ministry. Honestly, when it comes to the actual attraction, I think I like the other one, the one that's not really being talked about much within this new Wizarding World section, which is Les Cirques Arcanus, which is a recreation of the circus from, again, the second Fantastic Beasts movie, which is not something anyone was clamoring for them to make an attraction about, but I really like this. Once again, I think they did some really good shows at this park, and this one, you walk in, it's got this tent to go into the circus, and there's this pre-show that I thought was the entire show, but it turns out that there was more beyond that, and I really liked how that worked. Liked how it set up the story in the pre-show, introduces the idea that this is where the Fantastic Beasts will come into play. They didn't forget the Fantastic Beasts in the section of the park based off those movies. Even if those movies didn't go over huge, there's still, a lot you could do with that concept, and this show is where they integrate those creatures in. And once again, like Untrainable Dragon, there's just a lot of impressive things they do on stage here, and the way the effects work. Some of this is people in costume, some of it is on stage puppetry being used at a very large scale. I really like this show. We kind of went in just because the timing worked. We were walking by and it was about to start, and I'm really glad we did because I think it is a big part of the experience. If you didn't have the circus there, the Paris part would be very beautiful and visually stunning, but I think that you kind of need that extra attraction, especially because without it, you'd only have the Ministry attraction that isn't even set in the same time period. So I'm glad they have that circus, and I hope people don't skip it because it's not the Ministry of Magic. All right, let's talk Dark Universe, which was the land I was easily the most psyched for going in. Just the fact that this exists at all is pretty amazing. The fact that we are getting a Universal Monsters-based, not just attraction, an entire land at a Universal theme park is so cool. I'm so happy this exists. Now, am I happy it exists now that I've seen it? Yeah, I am. It's really awesome. It's probably the smallest of the lands inside Epic Universe. Now, would I have liked to have been bigger? Hell, would I have liked to have been the biggest land in the entire park? Yes, but I also understand we're pretty lucky to have this as far as that, this is a more niche thing. Like making a Universal Monsters land versus a Nintendo land, it's not quite this is for everyone, has these other things that they've built here. So I accept that it's a smaller land, and I still think it's really well detailed. I do think it feels very Hogsmeade, as in it feels like that was probably the template they used. Hogsmeade, if you've been to any of the Wizarding Worlds, it's the smallest one. It's the most sort of tightly constrained one. Not to say it's not detailed. It's just that there's a lot more room to walk around than the other two. And so this feels pretty Hogsmeade down to the main attraction, which I'll get to, which is very Hogsmeade. But I think it really works, that idea that you're in this small village, Darkmoor, and the way that they've taken the lore of the Universal Monsters and updated it, which is to say that in Darkmoor, we're in the present, but the Universal monsters that those movies were about in the 30s and 40s, that like that all happened. They make references to them. Hell, there's even outright photos of some of the people from those movies and characters. Yeah, I really like how they do that. There's a lot of great detail throughout. There is a lot of cool character stuff throughout. There's Frankenstein's monster and the Bride of Frankenstein are characters you can meet. I didn't do that because sometimes I had to make decisions based on lines and times, and a lot of times the characters were the longest lines. So I saw them from afar. I never met Igor. That one broke my heart because I've seen some of the videos online. He seems like he's a blast, that the people playing him are having a great time doing it. But I did meet the Invisible Man, and I found him to be a very dapper, very judgmental fellow, and I loved that he had so much attitude.
Are you talking about Victoria Frankenstein?
Well, what do you think of Victoria's monster?
I think that Victoria's not a scientist, probably not even a Frankenstein. And I have no thoughts on her little pet.
Another thing I didn't have time for, I really wish I had time for, was the Darkmoor monster makeup experience, just as far as getting to do that and getting to put some horror makeup on within one of the storefronts. But there are 2 rides, and those are the things I had to really concentrate on because I was really excited for them. Curse of the Werewolf is the spinning coaster that, yes, on one level is a basic spinning coaster that they kind of just theme around the Wolfman, but I thought it was really fun. I enjoy spinning coasters, and I thought that this one worked really well. I had just rewatched the Wolfman, actually, the week before, the original Wolfman, Universal Monsters Wolfman, and so it was really fun to see how they integrate quotes from that movie, and the idea of sort of the village and the lore from that movie is all in the queue. Yeah, it's just a really fun ride. And if you like spinning coasters, I thought this was a really good one. But let's face it, the most important thing here is Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment. And that is the main attraction inside the Frankenstein Manor that you walk up to. It's just really cool to have Frankenstein Manor here. And the idea of this Victoria Frankenstein character they introduce, who's a big part of the entire land. She is, I think, the great-great-granddaughter. Am I leaving off a great? I might be. She might be like triple great. I mean, she is a great character. But she is the descendant of Frankenstein from the movie Henry Frankenstein. They stick to that name from the Universal movie. It wasn't Victor in that film. And love that. When you go through the queue, so many details. Photos from that movie, Henry Frankenstein, his history there, things that he worked with, the idea that this is his experiments, but now she has updated them. So we kind of see the modern technology using what he came up with, all leading you to this attraction that I think is an absolute blast. It's the same ride system as Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, which is a ride I love. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey I thought was a really great mix of screen and live stuff. You're moving around the whole time. Much of it is screen based, but then you see, big full scale things in front of you like the dragon. But this ride, the Monsters Unchained ride, is almost all animatronics. Now, there's some screen stuff too, but most of it is based around the animatronics they built of the Universal Monsters, of their updated versions of them. They are so cool. They are so great. I did not film on this ride. You're not supposed to, and I didn't. I was really kind of just trying to take it all in. I wish I could show you. I'm sure it's out there online. But the Phantom of the Opera, he looks so great. Sitting there at his organ playing. Again, all the characters have kind of been modernized, but you still absolutely know who they are when you see them. There are cameos throughout this attraction of a lot of Universal monsters, even though it's primarily focused on Frankenstein's monster and Dracula. But many others pop in and pop out. It looks so cool. Some of the animatronics are built oversized to kind of make them even more insane looking. Like, they're supposed to be like that they are regular size, but then when they're coming at you, suddenly there's this extra large version of them sort of coming from above. It looks great. I love how that all works. I love the integration with some of the screen stuff is very well done. I love this ride. It made me so happy as a lifelong horror fan, as a lifelong Universal Monsters fan. Its existence alone would make me happy, but I think that they really nailed it with this main attraction. I think they knew what fans were hoping to get. My wife was saying how she wished it was a little scarier, given it is Universal Monsters. And I get that, but I still think it leans more towards the thrill side, and I think it is very effective in that arena. So maybe they could have tried to be a little more ominous, but I think that they still want people. They want some of the younger people or some of the people who are not into horror to still give it a shot. And I get that too. And hey, you want to have the gateway drug, so someone could go on this attraction and be like, maybe I'll check out the movies that these characters come from. That's my hope, at least. But yeah, really loved everything about this. The rest of the land is mostly made up of eateries. Das Steakhouse is a really cool looking vampire themed steakhouse. Who wouldn't want to sit and eat a steak while some staked vampires are right above you? And then there's the Burning Blade Tavern, which just has such a great visual touch here. Every 15 minutes, that windmill bursts into flames to evoke Frankenstein and what we saw with the villagers in those movies. It looks awesome. It looks even better at night, of course. Which is when I'll first mention how this park in its entirety looks great at night. And I really hope that they keep extended hours. I think initially it's open till 10 p.m., but I was looking ahead and it's already going to be moving to 9 p.m. Go the other direction, Universal. Keep this park open to midnight, because there's a lot of things about it that really pop at night. Dark Universe in its entirety, of course. And that windmill on fire. Oh my gosh, looks so great. A lot of things in Berk look really cool at night. The entrance to Super Nintendo World, as you walk up, and each land has its own portal. The Nintendo portal in particular looks so great, how colorful it is. And that leads me to Celestial Park, which is the fifth and final land here. It's not quite the same as anything else because it's the central land. There is no portal to the land per se. Well, there kind of is, because there's the Chronos that you walk through at the entrance. That is kind of, here's all of Epic Universe. You go through the Chronos, but it doesn't have the same effect that the other lands have with the portals where everything's kind of hidden away. And I've got mixed feelings on Celestial Park. It is beautiful. It is very, curated as far as the look of it all goes. But I also think it's a little bare. And I, once again, will go back to if I was a kid going to this park and I walked in, and how at first I would be like, nothing here that's really grabbing me. I also understand that helps increase how cool it is to walk through each portal. That when you walk through each portal from Celestial Park, you get this reveal of what's inside, and that's amazing. But Celestial Park itself, there's a lot of empty space as you walk to the next very beautiful structure. Even the bathrooms are very lovely to look at, the signs, the details. But I also think it kind of feels a little bare for what you'd want to, invite people into a fun theme park. But there are some attractions there. There is a carousel. There is also this kids splash pad area that I did not check out. But most importantly, there is a huge a coaster that is actually the biggest in the park. And that is Stardust Racers. And it also happens to be a standout attraction at the park. It is such a great coaster. It is absolutely thrilling. It's one of the best coasters at all of Universal Orlando. The only thing I think that beats it is Velocicoaster. It has a similar feel to Velocicoaster, the Jurassic World one that opened at Islands of Adventure a couple years ago. But I would still give a slight edge to Velocicoaster, but they're really neck and neck. And the way this one, moves you along and the twists and turns it takes, there's no proper loops, but you still feel that you're going on quite a journey, a very high-speed journey. It is really fun. I did it a couple times and I loved it. Also, there's this amazing Easter egg in the form of a flux capacitor on the back. And I really wanted to ask someone about that. I didn't get a chance to ask someone from Universal about that. And is there lore attached to it? These theme park rides, they almost always have lore. Is Doc Brown supposed to be connected to this ride? But no matter what, I just love that they mixed in this touch of IP, because Celestial Park is not based upon any pre-existing IP, has the central kind of hub of Epic Universe. But then the flux capacitor's there, so they managed to tie into one of their most beloved films, one that doesn't have a theme park ride anymore, unfortunately. So I'm glad that's there. But that's just a little icing on the cake. Also, though, it's worth mentioning that Celestial Park in general and Stardust Racers in specific look so fantastic at night. They look a lot better at night. And what I was saying about when you walk in, it's I think a little lacking. Again, it's beautiful when you look at the details, and even the entrance to Stardust Racers during the day with those statues at the front. I love that, but there's also a lot of space that is kind of empty. But at night, the pop everything gets, and some of that is from the water effects that stand out more, but then also the rides. I mean, the carousel looks beautiful in the center of the park, and Stardust Racers looks amazing. It's a dual coaster. You are racing alongside another coaster, and at some points you kind of intertwine, which is very exciting and feels scary because you feel like you're going to crash into the coaster, even though obviously you won't. But at night it all looks so much better. The pop of it all, and really kind of enhances, I think, that central area of the park. Again, I really hope that they keep the hours late, because I think that this park really benefits from that. There's something that real extra pop to all of it. I think the Celestial Park gets the brunt of that, but I think the whole park looks really fantastic at night. Yeah, so I was really impressed by Epic Universe. I think that it is really an amazing achievement. I've seen some people say, well, if you tally up all the rides, is this a full day park? Again, this is in the perfect world where all the wait times stay short and you were able to do them all. But the thing about it is, I guess maybe not. Like if you had short lines for everything and you just wanted to just do rides, I guess, yeah, you could do it all quickly enough that it's a quote unquote half day park. But I'm never a person that only cares about the rides. It's like, what are the details? What is the lands they built? What is the environments they built? And there's so much to look at here, so much to see. I can't imagine being that person who doesn't want to take it all in, who's like, I just want to go on that ride and leave all of Berk or all of the Nintendo world they've created. I would hope more people would want to look at it all, see it all, maybe stop and eat. Watch the shows, which I know are not officially rides, but they are attractions, and I think that they are really good ones. The ones I mentioned, both in Wizarding World and in Berk.
Or do some photo ops with the characters, because there's some fun opportunities there.
So yeah, it that visual pop that so much of it has, Celestial Park being the one that I think maybe could use a little more during the day, but everything else, I don't know, it really all makes such a big impression. Everything feels very distinct and different from each other. None of the lands feel like they have a similar vibe, not just because they're based on different IP, but I mean the layouts, what you're looking at, what you're doing. It all really has its own tone to it, and I really like that about it. I'd say my favorite land is probably Isle of Berk, How to Train Your Dragon. It just feels like a mini theme park into itself. Maybe it's just because it has the most attractions, the way it's built specifically with kind of the water in the center, the fact that it has, a show on top of all the rides and a kiddie area. I was really, really impressed by that one, and I didn't know necessarily that I would be. I love How to Train Your Dragon, but still it wasn't sort of top of mind. But I thought it was absolutely terrific. But I thought all the lands were pretty great, one way or the other. I'll name my top 3 attractions. I'm not going to rank them. Just name the ones that I've been thinking about the most that I think would be my favorite. Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment. It was the one I was most excited going in for, but I think it did deliver. Just getting to experience all that, getting to see these Universal monsters come to life, the fact that it's really impressive modern animatronics for most of them. I really like the Victoria Frankenstein character. I like Igor. He's a really fun part of that attraction. My only complaint, Bride of Frankenstein is not part of that attraction. I wonder why that is, because she's very much part of the marketing. You can meet her walking around the area, but she's not in the attraction. She should get her own attraction, because I would love if there was a third attraction proper, a third ride in Dark Universe, and give it to Bride of Frankenstein. That would be my choice. But yeah, overall though, Monsters Unchained is great. The Untrainable Dragon, the show I mentioned in Berk, it's just really impressive what they did here on stage. It has such a wow factor. It is a sweet show too. It has a nice simple but effective emotional core to it. But most of all, when you see Toothless flying over you, like literally he flies over you. I was looking overhead and I saw Toothless fly above me. You can't beat that. As far as I feel like if I was a little kid sitting in there, I would lose my mind feeling like, oh, Toothless is real and he just flew above us. And then last but not least, Stardust Racers. Like I said, just a great coaster. It does look really cool, day or night, but especially at night. But it looks great no matter what, and it's a very exciting coaster. One of the best that I've experienced in Orlando parks in general, but certainly in Universal Orlando. Again, I give a slight edge to Velocicoaster. I had this debate with a lot of people because there were people that were Team Stardust Racers, Team Velocicoaster, but honestly, we both win because they're both great, and the fact that they're even in contention for which is better is that's a win-win scenario. So those are my three favorites. And then, yeah, I mentioned other little things I wish were changed. Celestial Park, I think maybe you can add some more elements. There's a lot of restaurants around, and they have some cool theming and some cool look to it. I haven't really talked in detail about the food because I had little samples here and there, and they had these sort of buffet style lunches for us. But I didn't really feel I got to experience the restaurants in their totality, sitting down, ordering, getting their food the way you normally would. Oaken Tavern, though, I really liked. They have barbecue food there, and they had a mango bread. I recommend that mango bread. It was really, really tasty. And then, yeah, some of the covering they could use in Berk for the coaster. I think that they should not have left part of that queue uncovered. And Dark Universe, yes, I wish that there was a little more space to it because I'm just sort of greedy about my monsters and my horror, but I'm just also really happy that it exists at all. So, like I said, Bride of Frankenstein, give us an attraction. If you have room there for an extra attraction, there's definitely space for more at Epic Universe. You can tell for sure. And I'm curious one day if that'll mean extra lands, but certainly you can add attractions to what's already there. There is a big tease for Zelda at Super Nintendo World. There's a lot of Zelda imagery in the shop outside, and they're selling Zelda merch. So you feel like hopefully that is coming down the line. But what they have here now has a brand new park that has to, kind of deliver a lot to people that are coming in for the first time. I think it's all great. Fingers crossed that technical difficulties, which are inevitable with all these attractions opening at once, can be worked out pretty soon so that things aren't down as much, especially I'd say the Battle of the Ministry ride and the Untrainable Dragon show. Those seem to be the two things that were being hit the most while I was there, and they're both things that people absolutely want to see and should see. But yeah, maybe, wait a little bit to see if they can work out those kinks pretty soon. But I would highly advise you check out Epic Universe if you're in Orlando. Add it to your mix of the theme parks to see there, because I really already dug Universal Orlando a lot. I think it is, I love Disney World, but I love that the feel of Universal Orlando is so different. And I think Epic Universe, it has its own distinct feel, the way it's been built, the way it's been structured, and the attractions it has. It's really cool, and I look forward to seeing it again. All right, guys, those are my thoughts on Epic Universe first week. Well, the first official week. I know it's been open for a couple months in testing procedure, but I look forward to checking out again, maybe when I go back for Horror Nights in a couple months. All right, that's it for now. If you can like and subscribe, that'd be great. Thanks a lot. Take care.